I immediately walked in and, I sometimes look at people and what they have and, I'm like, oh, here we go again. But, I got a chance to know you, know a little bit about your backstory, where you come from, and know that we have some similar, just like a mentality of how to come up. So it was nice.
Absolutely, man. I think what you've put yourself through, and I don't say this anyway, I'm not saying that I can say I've had the same experience at all.
Right.
But I feel we've been wanting to challenge our minds in the same ways.
100%.
And that excites me, that desire, that hunger, even though we chose different paths.
Right.
I don't think I could have ever chosen your path. But we chose different paths, but we were testing the same parts of ourselves.
Right. The mind is the one thing that we don't test enough. A lot of us are so afraid of that test, and that's the real test. That's where the real growth comes from is the mind. So
absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I've had a beautiful fortune of actually diving into this book this weekend.
Great.
And I have to say, and I'm saying this honestly, so I was just telling you this earlier, 2017 to 2018, I read a book a day. I read 365 books in a year. I made a video about the books I read and how I did that. And then 2018 to 2019, this year, I read a book a week.
Right.
And one of the things I've struggled with recently, and I'm saying this as a compliment to you,
right.
is that it is so hard to read a book that isn't an article or isn't an Instagram caption or isn't a short video, because we live in a world where we're constantly consuming content.
Right.
But when I picked up your book, the thing I loved about it is the amount of effort that you've been through to give us, I'm sure this was suffering too, like writing this book, the amount of effort that you've been through to actually give us detail on your life. And I just want to start there about the process of writing the book, because I feel what you've done, what a lot of authors have missed out on recently, is you've gone a step further to really do self-work to write the book.
So in that book, it's a raw, very humbling version of David Goggins. I went down to the grassroots, to the soil, to the sewer of my life. It's the stuff that we don't want to talk about. It's the stuff that we don't want that person next to you in line knowing. And I had to have the courage to say it out loud to people. And so I was able to really go back and put so much detail into my story. Was we all have different things in our life that have scarred us. We want to act like those scars don't exist. So those scars, like, if you go out and you get cut, that scar is going to be there on your arm. You can go down and look at that cut and say, oh, or that scar and say, oh, that happened from, I was in the kitchen, or what happened. We have the same thing on our brain. I have all these scars on my brain from growing up, from, being abused, from suffering through life, from having a learning disability, from stuttering, from having just a really bad childhood. And so all those memories, I had to cut open that scar and go into it. And that was a hard process for me to do. Not only was that a hard process for me to do, for me to have the courage to share that with people, because I'm the so-called toughest man on the planet. So they think. So for me to break open that shell and tell people, hey, that wasn't always me. It's hard to do, it's hard to do. So it was a tough process.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm so glad you did peel that back.
Yeah,
because
tough.
It's so easy to live that title.
Oh yeah.
But when you the fact that you had the courage to break down that title, to actually lay it out, it's going to open up the door for so many more people.
Well, I had to do it because, throughout this journey, I started becoming this new person. I started creating this new person. People started seeing me as this amazing superhero. In the back of my mind, I knew the real story. And I was like, man, one day you have to really share it. I'm like, man, but do you have the courage? It's great to live right here. I've established this. People think you're great. Just stay here. Don't go back. Let's not go back. But the only way you can help people out is let them know that this is possible. So I had to go back and say, this is where I come from.
Yeah.
And where I come from is hell.
Absolutely. And now when you go back, you talk about how your childhood was a nightmare.
Right.
Tell us about some of the defining moments in your childhood that actually framed that experience to being a nightmare.
Well, my dad was a person that, he was an alcoholic. He was really big on being a powerful man. And he had two different sides to him. He had a side that once we left our house, so our house was the dungeon. No one knew anything about about the inside of that house. The inside of that house was horrible. It was evil. Like the evil monster came out to play. Wow. But once he left that house, he was the nicest person on the planet. So no one knew, who this guy was. So the scarring started happening inside the dungeon. And my dad didn't really believe in us going to school. He had a family business, and the family business was a skating rink and also a bar. So my dad owned, it was called the Vermilion Room was the bar, and the skating rink was called Skateland. So from the time I was able to walk, I was working that skating rink. And I worked it from like 9 o'clock at night until like 12 o'clock in the morning pretty much. That's what we did. I'm 4 years old, scraping gum off the skating rink floor, doing stuff like that. Me and my brother and my mom. Once the skating rink was shut down, the bar would open up. The bar would be open from like midnight to like 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. Once that closed down, we'd go upstairs and clean the bar. So by the time you work like this, I'm a young kid. It's time to go to school. So most time we didn't go to school. So we missed school a lot, but thank God for me, I didn't like school anyway. With a learning disability, with a stutter, I had white splotches all over my skin from being stressed out, hair, patches of hair falling out at a young age. And once my dad got drunk, that's when the nightmare began. And he'd get drunk, he'd get violent, and we got beatings quite regularly. Probably at least once or twice a week. And the beatings weren't like, hey, I'm gonna give you a whipping because you did something wrong. It was like, hey, I don't feel good today. And you get beat for that. And my mom got a lot of the beatings, and it would just trickle down to me and my brother. So that foundation of life that I didn't have, that's how it started off for me. And it's progressively got worse. So when you have a horrible foundation, it's like building a house on a fucked up foundation. This is what you're gonna get. Any kind of earthquake or something happen, the house is gonna go down. Sometimes, it doesn't even take an earthquake. It takes a little windstorm. So that was me. I was just a little windstorm away from breaking.
Yeah.
All the time, a windstorm away from breaking, but no one knew it. I walked around like I was a pillar of strength at a young age. But that internal conversation you're having back here is this weak little kid, very afraid. And I think that's what makes the book very powerful, because I take you there.
Yes.
I take you to that spot of, I'm superhuman now, so you think. But a lot of people have a lot of problems that they can't overcome.
Absolutely, man. And I definitely felt when you were diving into that I was reliving it with you.
Right.
And I think you do that so powerfully in the book, because it's hard for people who haven't had the same experience to envision it.
Right.
But you made that possible. But the other thing that you do is I think you're highlighting something that is so huge for us, that I genuinely feel that so many of today's challenges that we all face as adults
Right.
are because of our childhood. When did you realize that your childhood was something that needed healing, that needed transforming as an adult? When did that come, when you were like, I need to go back there to transform, to change my experience?
It happened when I could never get over the hump. I kept on feeling like I was getting over the hump. And then one little windstorm, small little windstorm would come by and push me back to scratch. It's like, why? Why am I not, I'm learning how to read now. I was a junior in high school and couldn't read that well, a fourth grade reading level, because I would cheat on everything. And I learned how to read, I learned how to write. I taught myself all these things, all these disciplines. But whenever the first real big challenge would come, that little windstorm would push me back in the hole. And I realized, man, I'm fixing stuff on a surface level. I'm all surface, man. I'm not going deep into the cellar of my mind and fixing the foundation of my soul. My soul is broken. But I knew I could fix it, but I was afraid to go back. I was afraid to face the demons of my life, because you start lying. You want anybody knowing this shit about you. So you start lying about who you're not and start creating a person about who you want to be, but it's not who you are. So that's when I started realizing, man, I'm never gonna get over the hurdle. I'm always gonna live on a surface level until I go deep, deep into the sewer of my mind to figure out and face all of these different demons. That's hard. It's hard. We all like social media. We all like everybody to see us for who we want to be. That's why we post beautiful things about us. That's not going to fix you. So I realized that, and that's when I started going back. So I was about 24 years old, and I went from 175 to almost 300 pounds. And that's when I sat down on my couch and realized we got to go back. And it started with me going back to my father. So we left when I was 8 years old. We went to a small town in Brazil, Indiana. There's about 5 to 10 black families in a town of 8,000 to 10,000 people. And there was a big hub of Klansmen that lived in Center Point, Indiana. And I talk about that in the book. So the Klan marched in the 4th of July parade in 1995 in Indiana. So when you come from a messed up foundation like I did in Buffalo, New York, where my dad beat me senseless, and now I have that messed up foundation, and now I'm here being the only black person. I call it the only in my book, being the only black person. My mom's working 3 jobs. We're living in a $7 a month place. She's never at home. So it's not like I had some mentors coming in to help me. You know, they're trying to put me in these different group places for like having some shrink talk to me and these 8, 9 kids, and one kid setting his house on fire, another kid's peeing in the trash can, another kid had a helmet on, banging his head up against the wall. And I'm looking at this at 8 years old. You know, and I'm gonna get back to your question that you asked me, but these are the things I had to go back and relive. You know, I'm 24 years old now, and I have to go back to all these things that no one knew about me in this group place where I'm in this place where these people are crazy and they think I'm crazy.